Hey, John Martinez here with Steve, the senior sales guru. And Steve's been kind enough to hop on here and answer some more questions about selling, specifically selling hearing aids. Steve's been doing it a long time, trained salespeople all over the country to do it, and has really mastered that type of sale. And I love the way Steve sells because he does it in a very it's a very pressure-free way. So, Steve, thanks for being on here. Got a couple
Absolutely,
questions
John.
for you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, hey, one of the big questions I have for you is this. In any type of sales situation, hearing aids or otherwise, one of the most frustrating things for business owners and salespeople is when they get through the sales conversation, they get to the end, and it's time to make some type of decision, but instead of a yes or a no, you get some type of maybe or think it over, and those don't really go anywhere. It didn't help them because you didn't help them make a decision, and it doesn't help you because a yes is great, but if it's a no, at least you know where you stand, so you know more about whether you hit the mark or not. So from a business standpoint and from a prospect standpoint, it kind of fails. So what do you do? How exactly do you handle that? What do you do to encourage a prospect to actually make a decision one way or the other?
No, that's a great point, John. And I think that most people are afraid of a no, and I'm completely okay with a no. And at the very, very beginning of my conversation, when I first bring somebody into the office with me, I want to explain to them that my job is to help them with their hearing loss, and I'm going to make a recommendation for them. And yes is a great answer, but no's okay too. And I want to take the pressure off of them. I want to help them, guide them through the decision-making process. But if the decision is a no, I'm good with that. I would rather not chase after somebody for, 3, 4, 5 weeks on a think it over, because those tend to go nowhere.
Awesome. And I want to dive into that just a little deeper, if you don't mind. Why is it so important to create that pressure-free environment right there at the beginning?
Well, I think too many times people come in and they've got their defenses up, they've got their guards up, and I'm really there to help them to hear better. And if I don't sell them or treat them, then I'm not helping them. So part of my job is to make them comfortable in it. So right after I tell them that yes is great, but no's okay too, I'll also explain to them that, I don't care if you spend $1 or 10,000 with us, as long as I can help you hear better. Now, I'm going to recommend a technology level that's going to fit your hearing loss and your lifestyle at the end. And, if that's going to work for you, then that's great. But, if it's not, no's okay too.
Cool. So what I'm really hearing, and what I hope everyone is hearing, is really how relaxed you are, and how you try to take the pressure down. I've talked to you, we've had other conversations, and you've talked about how important it is to ask the right questions. And when you're asking the right questions, it's a lot of questions. And the questions aren't just surface layer. I know when we've talked in the past, you've talked about how you go a few levels deep, right? You go with what's the initial problem we're here to solve, and then but really how's that impacting you, on a personal or an emotional level, and really how's that feel, so you can determine, and start to catalog what is important to this person, why would they make a decision, what is their real sense of urgency around this, and how do we impact their lifestyle in a positive way. So how does the way you set up those calls and relaxing the environment, how does that impact the questions you then have to ask afterward?
Well, I think by relieving the pressure and kind of letting them know that I'm their partner in this journey at the very, very beginning, it really helps to lower those defenses and allows me to ask some of the deep questions. If I ask somebody if they go out to eat on a regular basis and they just say yes and you leave it at that, well, you really haven't done anything for them other than find out that they like to go out to eat. So if I'm asking that particular question, they say yes, my follow-up question to that is going to be, well, do you sometimes have trouble understanding the person sitting across from you? Is the background noise too much for you? Of course, most of the time they're going to say yes, because even those with perfect hearing have a hard time in those situations. So if they can't hear the person across from them, you know, how frustrated does that make you feel? Does that sometimes make you not want to go out to eat? And, if you're stopping in activities that you enjoy, how's that affecting your lifestyle? And the ultimate goal is to get them back and get them as much independence and freedom and enjoyment of their life as possible.
Awesome. It's something I want to kind of shine a light on there that you hit on. Um, I know the way your mind works and sales, and a lot of this stuff just comes so naturally to you. But you said a lot of stuff there that I think a lot of people will just miss. So when you go into, problem and how it impacts them, do you sometimes find that there is no impact, that you thought you were going down a place that you could really help them, but then you determine, you say, hey, how, do you go out to eat? Yeah. Do you have trouble hearing? Yeah. Well, how important is that? Not a big deal at all, right? Do you sometimes get that type of response?
Sometimes you do, and what you're doing is just trying to find out what part of their hearing loss or their lifestyle is really affecting them. Sometimes they're going to come across or going to have stuff that's just not important to them, and at that point, it's not important to me either. Can I make it better in that situation? Probably, but that's not going to be where my focus is. Great point, though.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between mediocre salespeople and expert salespeople and sales trainers like yourself. Is mediocre salespeople really they kind of assume the problem, right? Because they've been in a sales situation so many times, they assume that person A is like person B is like person C. But I think when you use the techniques that you teach, you quickly find out that a lot of those assumptions are wrong. And if you base your whole sales presentation on a wrong assumption, you're not going to get the sale, but more importantly, you're wasting the business's resources, and you're not helping that customer, that client, that patient, in other words. So,
and even further on that point, I do run across a lot of different salespeople that do make the assumptions, and what's worse is they don't actually drill down in any of the questions. So their question, well, do you go out to eat a lot? Yep. You have trouble hearing in that circumstance? Yep. And they move on, and they think that that's the problem that the person has. And really, if you drill down further into it and really ask some of those personal questions, you might find out that, kind of like you brought up, it's no big deal to the person. So you really have to do a much better job of really finding out what their, lack of a better term, pain is, or what situations that they really want help with.
Cool. So my big takeaway from this conversation with you are two things. Number one, the best of the best when it comes to salespeople in the hearing aid industry, first set up a conversation for success by relieving pressure, and then and that allows them to go into the right types of questions to figure out what actually is important instead of making assumptions.
Yes.
Great conversation. Absolutely love every time we chat, Steve. So thank you for sharing with everyone. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks a lot, John. Thank you.